It's a night in the Bay of Biscay, 1942. A German U-boat surfaces to recharge its batteries. The commander checks the METOX receiver. Green screen. No radar emissions detected. He orders the diesel engines to full power. Everything is under control. He doesn't know it yet, but the sky above him is listening on a frequency his equipment was never built to hear. In 1942, the German U-boat fleet was a formidable force in the Atlantic. During what Allied intelligence called the Second Happy Time, German submarines were sinking merchant ships at an alarming rate. Month after month, vast amounts of Allied shipping disappeared beneath the surface. Winston Churchill himself would later admit that the U-boat threat was the only thing during the entire war that truly frightened him. The U-boat's strategy was straightforward. Surface at night, locate a convoy, attack, and dive before dawn. However, the Allies had a counter: Coastal Command aircraft equipped with ASV Mark II radar. This system operated on a wavelength of 1.5 meters and could detect a U-boat's conning tower from miles away, guiding an aircraft directly to it. The German response was the METOX FB-1, a passive receiver. It didn't emit anything, it simply listened. If Allied radar swept over the U-boat, the METOX picked up the 1.5-meter pulse, giving the crew approximately 30 minutes of warning. This was usually enough time to shut down the diesels, seal the hatches, and dive to safety. The effect was immediate. After the METOX entered service, Coastal Command's success rate against U-boats significantly decreased. Aircraft were arriving over empty ocean. The submarines had vanished minutes before they got there. The logic seemed airtight. U-boat plus METOX equaled night invisibility. If radar couldn't surprise you, the surface was safe. But the METOX had a flaw. Not a mechanical or design flaw, but a physical one, inherent in the laws of electromagnetism. Before we delve into the weapon that exploited this flaw, we need to understand why U-boats were vulnerable in the first place. Not because of tactics, but because of physics. A diesel-electric submarine is not a true underwater vessel. It's a surface ship that can temporarily hide beneath the water. The diesel engines need air and cannot run submerged. The electric batteries that power the submarine underwater have limited endurance, a few hours at most before they need recharging. To recharge, the U-boat must surface, open the intake valves, and run the diesels. This means every U-boat in the Atlantic had to spend several hours per day on the surface, not by choice, but by physical necessity. Time on the surface equaled time of exposure. This was not a tactical problem, it was a thermodynamic constraint. This is precisely why the METOX was so critical. Those hours on the surface were the hours of maximum vulnerability. The METOX was the only thing standing between the crew and an aerial attack from a sky they couldn't see. But the METOX was tuned to one band, 1.5 meters, approximately 200 megahertz. Anything below roughly 80 centimeters in wavelength was completely invisible to the receiver. Think of it this way. Imagine you install a smoke detector in your house, but the detector is calibrated only for wood smoke. If someone starts a chemical fire with a cold flame, the detector stays silent. The danger is real, the fire is burning, but it's burning on a frequency your sensor was never designed to recognize. Here's the paradox that made this lethal. The better the METOX worked, the more the commanders trusted it. The more they trusted it, the longer they stayed on the surface. And when the frequency changed, that trust became the trap. On February 21, 1940, nearly 3 years before the U-boats would feel the consequences, two physicists in a university lab in Birmingham built the device that would exploit this blind spot: John Randall and Harry Boot. Two names almost nobody knows, two names that changed the outcome of the war at sea. What they built was a cavity magnetron. Physically, it's unimpressive. A copper disc about the size of your palm with 6 circular cavities machined into its body. But what it does is extraordinary. A cavity magnetron generates microwaves, specifically electromagnetic radiation at a wavelength of 10 centimeters, 15 times shorter than the ASV Mark II. The difference between 1.5 meters and 10 centimeters is not incremental, it's categorical. Here's the analogy. A 1.5-meter radar is like a harbor lighthouse. The beam is wide, diffuse, and it loses power quickly in fog. A 10-centimeter radar is like a laser pointer. The beam is narrow, concentrated, and it cuts through everything. A shorter wavelength means a tighter beam. A tighter beam means more energy hits the target. More energy hitting the target means a stronger return signal. A stronger return signal means you can detect smaller objects, like the conning tower of a U-boat, at greater distances and with higher precision. And the magnetron produced 10 kilowatts of power in a device that fit in the palm of a hand. It was small enough to mount inside an aircraft. The alternative, the klystron tube, was larger, more fragile, and far less powerful. It was never a serious option for airborne use. The magnetron was the radar that could fly. By early 1943, the magnetron was operational inside the ASV Mark III radar, mounted on Liberators and Sunderland flying boats of RAF Coastal Command. The detection sequence it created was devastatingly simple. Step 1. The aircraft's 10-centimeter radar detects the U-boat's conning tower from several miles away. The METOX receiver on board the submarine is silent. It hears nothing because there is nothing to hear on 1.5 meters. Step 2. The aircraft approaches in total darkness. No lights, no searchlight. The crew has a radar contact and a bearing. They close the distance. Step 3. At approximately 1 mile, the aircraft activates the lee light, a searchlight producing 22 million candle power. The ocean surface ignites white. The U-boat is visible. Step 4. Depth charges are released. Now here's the math that made this sequence fatal. From the moment the lee light illuminates the submarine, the crew has roughly 15 seconds before the bombs hit the water. A U-boat needs approximately 30 seconds to crash dive, to close the hatches, flood the tanks, and get below the surface. 15 seconds available, 30 seconds needed. The math doesn't work. And for hundreds of U-boat crews, it never would. The U-boat crews knew they were in grave danger. What they didn't know, and what donuts couldn't figure out, was why. The reports coming into U-boat command were consistent and terrifying. Captains were radioing the same message. Attacked by aircraft without METOX warning. No radar emission detected before the attack. The aircraft appeared from nowhere. Donuts and his staff at BDU were baffled. The METOX worked perfectly in every controlled test. The receiver detected 1.5 meter emissions exactly as designed. The equipment was not malfunctioning. So the Germans began looking for other explanations. The first theory was infrared. German engineers concluded that the British must be using thermal sensors to detect the heat signature of the diesel exhaust gases rising from the U-boat's engines. It was a reasonable hypothesis, but completely wrong. The second theory was worse, and it nearly led to more losses. Some in the German command began to suspect that the METOX receiver itself was emitting a detectable signal, that the very device designed to protect them was betraying their position to the enemy. Donuts ordered U-boat crews to shut down their METOX receivers. The result was catastrophic. Now the submarines had zero warning, not just against the new 10-centimeter radar they couldn't detect, but also against the old 1.5-meter radar that the METOX had been successfully intercepting for over a year. The rate of losses accelerated. The truth arrived late. A British bomber carrying an H-2S navigation radar which also used a cavity magnetron, was shot down over Rotterdam. German engineers recovered the wreckage. The so-called Rotterdam device revealed the existence of centimetric radar for the first time. Germany responded with the Naxos FUMB-7, a receiver designed to detect 10-centimeter emissions, but it didn't enter service until mid-1943. By then, the damage was done. May 1943 was the month the Atlantic War reversed. In 31 days, the Allies sank 43 German U-boats. Approximately 30,000 German sailors served in the U-boat arm during the war. The losses in May alone represented a rate of attrition that was unsustainable by any measure. On May 24, 1943, Grand Admiral Dönitz made the decision he had spent 4 years avoiding. He ordered the withdrawal of U-boat wolfpacks from the North Atlantic. The numbers tell the full story. Before the ASV Mark III in 1942, U-boats were sinking roughly 700,000 tons of Allied shipping per month. The exchange rate was approximately 1 U-boat lost for every 10 merchant ships destroyed. The math favored Germany. After the ASV Mark III, by mid-1943, Allied shipping losses dropped to approximately 200,000 tons per month. U-boat losses surged to 43 in a single month. The exchange rate inverted. 1 U-boat lost for every 2 attacks attempted. The Battle of the Atlantic was not decided by a fleet engagement. It was not decided by a breakthrough in torpedo technology or a new class of submarine. It was decided by a copper disc with 6 holes in it. The system failure was not the U-boat. It was the assumption embedded in every METOX receiver, in every operational doctrine, in every night surfacing procedure, that the electromagnetic spectrum had only one dialect. The cavity magnetron spoke a language that the METOX was never built to understand. Herbert Werner survived the war. He served aboard U-230, operating in the Bay of Biscay during the worst months of the crisis. In his memoir, Iron Coffins, he described the nights when aircraft materialized from empty darkness. No warning, no METOX alarm. The screen was green, the display was clear, and the sky exploded. Werner didn't know about the cavity magnetron. He didn't know about the 10-centimeter wavelength. He only knew that something had changed, that the rules his training had taught him no longer applied. He was right. The rules hadn't changed. The frequency had. If this analysis revealed something you hadn't considered before, follow. More technical breakdowns like this are on the way.